You can record it. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead, Rajiv.
Yeah. What I'm saying is, overall, from a knowledge perspective, right? I'm in actually a pretty happy place, in terms of everything that we have learned, and so many different ways of understanding Brahman and who you are, and the non-duality part. So I think that that's clear. It's also clear to me, the different kind of yogas that you need to do continuously to really uh, continue to discover yourself, right? Um, so I think that's also clear. I think the ball is really in my mind's court. How do you really apply what you've learned and live your life? And, assimilation, right? Nidhyasana, right? And assimilating it in the work that you do day to day. I think that's, to me, is the big wall to climb now. Um, I mean, we can continue debating about things that may not be clear or not crystal clear,
Right.
or go back to a few things, but I think the big picture is pretty clear.
So the questions that Atul had last time around this, you know, almost
Shraddha.
satyam, mithya, paramarthika, vyavharika, all that. You're generally speaking, you're okay with those things by and large. You don't have
Yes,
any
I'm okay.
issues.
I mean, I don't have any. Like I said, there may be some detail that I
Yeah.
may still need clarification on. But in between, going through this class and reading about Vedanta or listening to lectures myself, right? It's settled in. It's
Right.
not
Right.
like I have a lot of. I'm not struggling to question Vedanta. To tell you frankly, that's not my
You're
struggle.
not struggling with what?
To question Vedanta.
Okay. 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 Yeah.
Okay. I think I'm at peace with the overall philosophy and the different components of
Right.
that.
Right.
I think the thing that I'm maybe a little bit more, sometimes a question is, I think what Kiki was, referring to, the concept of God, and multiple gods and so many gods is sort of always has a question mark, a little bit of a question mark. But outside of that context, I think who I am, and yes, there is God, is fine.
Mutta, what about you?
Yeah, I am happy that I plunged into this philosophy, and I mean, I'm still here.
That's good.
Didn't leave it halfway and just
Yes.
forgot about it. That's not there
That's
because it has
that's your
happened
first. Yes.
earlier also. I am I do it.
But anything in
I'm
particular that like which is bothering you or something that you want to discuss? I think what I
no.
understood from Rajiv, just to make sure that I got that right, Rajiv, you're saying it's not the knowledge or the understanding, it's more about how to apply it in life, which
That's
is which
correct.
is your issue right now. How do I take all this that I know and make sure I'm applying it, right? Okay.
Exactly, right. I mean, just to expand on that, right? I mean, we learned about karma yoga, right? How do you do self-service, selfless service? Yeah, I mean, I think just purifying the mind and
Right, right, right.
that kind of stuff needs a lot of time, a lot of focus, right? And how do you develop all that? How do you continue to be This discussion about shraddha and what was the other verses? What?
Faith.
Faith. Yeah, right.
Faith and Shraddha.
In the debate, I think it was very quickly, I could understand that shraddha requires a lot of focus and intent, and it's coming from within you rather than taking something for granted, which would be faith. Like I said, those concepts are all there now. I think it's just application in your daily life.
No, understood. Sorry, Mukta, you were saying something. You just continue.
I was saying that I was just listening to the previous session just about an hour ago. And then I was thinking that really need to work upon the Antakarna Shuddhi. Really.
Same thing, right?
That's what is required actually. After that lecture and the one before that, that's what is holding us back somewhere, that which because of which we are not able to apply it into our lives.
Right. What was it?
Although
What was the lecture? I forget now because itne sare ho gaye hain. The one that you listened to. It said about Antakarna, defining Antakarna. Oh, the one from chapter 13, right?
Yeah.
Got it. Yes. Right.
So that's what I was listening to about an hour ago.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking कि सबसे ज़्यादा तो इसी की ज़रूरत है.
Right.
Basically,
I agree.
That needs to be worked upon. Because वही एक क्वेश्चन मार्क रहता है कि हमने सुन लिया, समझ लिया, फेथ भी है, श्रद्धा भी है, सब कुछ है, पर somewhere that thing is lacking, that we are actually not really able to apply it in our day-to-day lives. सुनते हैं, समझते हैं, ठीक है, it is there at the back of our minds. I don't know. I mean, of course there are जो पहले भी हमने एक क्लास में डिस्कस किया था कि how has our lives, what changes हमारी लाइफ में आए, कि हमने क्या चेंज हुआ after being in Vedanta study for 2-3 years now. So at that time also I couldn't really say, but it made me think. What I said was कि I can't point out any particular change, but I did think about it. Then I realized that changes are there, they are very subtle. पर जो मेजर चीज है वही है कि फिर भी अभी ऐसा लगता है कि that purity of mind is required.
Yeah.
To really have it in our lives. At least I do need a lot of purity of mind.
No, I understand. I mean, I think the fact that you recognize it is a big thing. You probably need less purity of mind than you needed several years ago, but now you see it, you recognize it, you recognize the impurity when it comes across.
Yeah.
That's the main thing, I think. That's why, पहले तो पता ही नहीं चलता था हमको. We never thought about these things. But I think you're basically saying sort of the same thing that Rajiv was also saying. Which is
similar.
It's all similar sort of thing. How do we apply it?
Yeah.
It's not so much the conceptual understanding, not like what is Satyam and what is Mithya and why do we have Mithya and all that. Not that. It's just really saying, how do we apply this?
Yeah.
Sanjay, what about you? Sorry.
Yeah, I think we are all in the same boat that the application part is the hardest. And for application, we really need to be very, very focused on Vedanta. What we have learned, really we have to be in every act, every word we utter, everything we do, we have to keep that picture in mind, the Vedanta picture in mind. Are you behaving Vedantically? Are you doing what you have learned? Are you putting that into the practical view? So for that, I think we really need to devote a lot of time into all these things. Antakarna, Shuddhi, Karam Yoga. Understanding is one part, but translating into actions is a different ball game altogether.
Right.
You really need to change your internal mental processes and your external reactions.
Yeah.
And
No,
really, if
absolutely
you go
correct.
somewhere wrong, at the end of the day, you really have to see that the next time you don't repeat the same things.
Right,
You can easily recognize, yeah, where you were wrong
right.
or somebody was wrong or something. But to point your fingers right at yourself and try to rectify all those things, I think that's a big challenge. That's
Right.
a big challenge.
So I think what you're saying is you can even you can recognize where things are wrong. You can even point the finger at yourself and say, "Here's where I got wrong."
Yeah.
Right?
I think that's the big learning curve where you
That's a
can
very
put your
big thing.
fingers
Yes,
back.
it's not
Yeah.
a small thing.
It's
It's a
not a
huge,
small thing to
yeah,
accept. But at the end of the day, in the heart of heart, you know where you went wrong. You
yes.
see, and
And
just
then the
try to
question is to
rectify
give
in
yourself,
the,
yeah,
yeah.
next
So,
time to improve. That's the idea.
yeah, that's a big challenge.
Yeah,
The second thing is whatever we have learned in Vedanta doesn't say you accept everything. Yeah, obviously you can, whatever they are teaching, you can look at them critically and
yeah,
analyze it and get the data for yourself, but you can also try it on yourself and see the results for yourself.
yeah,
That's the
absolutely.
beauty of
Yes.
Vedanta, I
Yeah.
think.
That's when you start getting to know
Whatever
it.
they
You start
teach,
applying it to
you
yourself.
can apply on yourself and see the results.
Yes. And if it works, then you'll have more faith in it. You'll trust it more. You'll have more conviction.
More faith in it.
Yeah.
More faith
If
in
it
it.
doesn't
Yeah.
work, then
Yeah.
you won't be coming back to the classes, right? As Mukhtar said. You're
That's
coming
why
back.
I say it's very, very important, at least for me, to be connected with Vedanta or some Vedantic teaching, some lecture, some gyan on a daily basis.
Hmm.
Once there is a gap, you are in no time you are off the track. आप,
Actually, it's very interesting. ये जो
आप,
स्वामी पार्था सारथी जो हैं,
हाँ,
we never talk about him so much, but he has he's a pretty well-known teacher of Vedanta in India, and he's
हम्म,
taken a lot of seminars with companies and all. So he's focused his teaching on Karam Yoga very much,
हम्म,
and also
हम्म,
Karam Yoga in today's environment, in the modern
हम्म,
corporate context.
हम्म,
So that's why he speaks at a lot of he used to, now he's 95 almost. But he used to talk to a lot of these big companies. Um,
हम्म,
so he says that every morning, early morning, first thing you do, get up early. So he asks all his students to get up at 4 o'clock. And he says from 4 to 6, study Vedanta. Like do something. So for example, one of his students, who's Janki ji, like I told you about her. She's also a teacher. She said I used to get up 4 to 6, and she's written 2 or 3 books. So she said I used to write Vedantic books at that time. So like 4 to 6 was my time for Vedanta. So anything to do with Vedanta, whether you're writing,
हम्म,
you're discussing something that you're going to teach, you're learning something new, you're revising. But he's like he says, people, one of my friends who is a sort of a who is a follower of his. He says every time I go meet him, first thing he asks me, "Have you been up? Are you doing your 2 hour study every day?" It's like that kind of thing. So what you're saying actually is, it's he also says exactly that. And if that is what you need, that's what works for you, then go for it. I mean, I also, one way or the other, I'm doing Vedanta, not just 2 hours, even longer. One way or the other, I'm connected with it. But I think you can't help it. It's like you just, one gets so immersed in it that it becomes part of life. But yes, I mean, you're a busy guy. You're busy in clinic. You're doing other things. So for you to set aside some time and study it, whether watch a video, read something, is very important, I think.
somebody had commented that you become a rasgulla.
Acha.
If you want to learn Vedanta really, you have to become a rasgulla.
Like,
What he meant was कि पहले क्या होता है कि रसगुल्ला बनता है, उसको जो पनीर वनीर ये वो फ्राई किया जाता है, फिर उसको चाशनी में डाल देते हैं, ओवरनाइट रख देते हैं.
right.
And once it is dipped in the chasni, so you cannot separate the rasgulla from the Chasni.
Right.
You really have to be immersed in Vedanta
Right.
to really learn Vedanta
Yeah.
and be a part of it. तो वेदांता के साथ ऐसे जुड़ो कि रसगुल्ला बन जाओ.
No, good. Kiki, what about you? Anything other than what we've heard?
I think in a similar vein, but I think I had texted you in it too that I really want to know I really want to meditate more now. I think that when I first started with Carol, I used to ask her, I used to find it very hard to meditate. And she said, don't worry about it. And now I feel now I'm doing it every day, but I'm doing a non-dual mindfulness, which is more in the Buddhist realm, but it's not any different from Vedanta, And I want to know if there are what nididhyasana in the traditional teaching of Vedanta. I want to learn more about that. And I think that and I agree with everything we've all said about Karma Yoga and purification of the mind. I think that is very important for me as well. But alongside that, what is really important and that I'm trying to work on is to really absorb that I am not my mind body, to really absorb that in a very real way. And to so I want my meditation to be around that.
So, I mean, I think you should ask Carol for the meditations because I myself don't know too many. So, for me, Nididhyasana is what Sanjay had said, which is you look back at your day and see during the course of the day, where it's like run back your day and those moments in slow motion, the ones which didn't you feel like you were not at peace or you did something incorrectly, and try to see what did you do which was against your teaching, against your knowledge, and just replay those in your mind and see how you would do it if you were to do it differently. And that practice, to me, that is the Nididhyasana. But I'm sure there are many other Nididhyasana related meditations. But Vedanta also has a lot of upasanas. Upasanas is like the kind of it's more of a meditation. When you say meditation, meditation is an action. Like I'm doing something. So obviously I cannot be non-dual if I'm doing something.
Yes, exactly. And the same thing with the reflection also, right? That remains dual. I mean, I think it's
But that's okay. I mean, I don't know whether you can do anything about non-dual. You cannot become non-dual. It's not, I don't think, I mean, that's why I was saying you ask.
not becoming, but yeah. It's just.
It's not as if you can imagine that, okay, you're non-dual. But that also, there will always be somebody imagining. So I don't know what the traditional, whether there are, because we haven't done much upasanas. And I also haven't studied it too much. I just know a little bit which of Brahma Sutra ne batayi thi. That also I know cursorily. You can think about Ishwar, the whole world as Ishwar, the earth being Ishwar's feet,
Yeah.
the sky being Ishwar's head, those kinds of things.
But the moment we think about Ishwar, and this is a question, from what I understand, if I think about myself as Kiki as this individual, then I think about Ishwar because then I think, okay, I am in relationship. I as this person am in relationship with Ishwar. But sometimes I don't think about Ishwar during meditation because there is no need like that.
Yeah, no, I understand. I was just telling you that the upasanas are usually where you think about Ishwar. So it's called an Ishwar upasana.
Yeah.
That I know a little bit, but I don't know about Nididhyasana.
Okay.
Nididhyasana is,
I'll talk to Carol.
yeah. So I think it's better to ask Carol.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the other stuff that you're talking about, which is, all of you are talking about, which is how to apply it, I think that's our sort of life's work, so to say.
Right.
As long as we are making progress, as long as we feel like um, we are there's some progress. If there's no progress, then I think we are doing something wrong. Then we have to kind of discuss it or talk to someone and see where are we not not doing something right. Like, is there something we are missing?
So I just wanted to add one other thing related to consciousness, right? It's same discussion. I personally think, and I have been talking about Vedanta to people who are interested, and friends and coworkers. But I think the hardest part to really reconcile with, I believe in Vedanta, is understanding consciousness. Because again, I think we human beings always fall into the trap of a direct experience, and everybody wants to directly experience consciousness, right? But that can't happen, right? So how do you reconcile that there is something there, right? And for me, I think what you can talk about the three states, and you can sort of correlate to that. But to me, the strongest correlation actually came was reading about what happens to you when you die, right? And how the life forces and the consciousness actually escapes your body. And that to me is the only solid proof that I can get that there is consciousness that leaves you, right? And it makes a lot more sense than that that particular consciousness, along with the other forces in seed form, then go and inhabit another body. It makes it believable, right? Anyway, I thought I would add that. But that was actually one of my personal struggles, was this whole concept about consciousness. I think, Dheeraj, your explanation about you cannot experience it directly. It can be reflected, and whatever you think of yourself, I self is all reflected consciousness, but there is you can't really directly experience consciousness, right? I thought that I would add that, because to me that's foundational, right, in Vedanta, and it's really helped me by
You can't
looking
experience
at
consciousness because that is what you are.
yeah,
So consciousness can't leave you because that's you.
yeah,
Your physical body can leave you, you can say,
yeah.
but
Oh,
the
but
consciousness can't leave you because consciousness is you. So
yeah, so,
subtle body
yeah,
can also leave. So that's what I'm trying to say. That's just a phraseology of what you were saying, that it's not as if consciousness leaves you, because that would mean that consciousness is something other than you. You are here and consciousness is gone there. You are
the time
consciousness.
of death, right? I mean, that's the
At the time of
important
death also,
part, right?
the
Yeah,
time of death, what you realize is that what you are is not the body from which
yeah,
the consciousness is left.
exactly.
You are the consciousness.
Yeah,
Um, and nothing happens to you because the body will be burnt and gone.
yep.
So, but you are still there. So if you were the body, then you would also be burnt and gone.
Yeah,
So,
so I think there is a correlation here between between what Kiki was saying, right? Is the meditation that of being centered in consciousness versus body mind. I think I use this as an argument to kind of make my mind or brain understand, and make the shift, right? I mean, I'm not saying I'm completely shifted, but
no, no,
this
no, I
is this
understand.
is
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
how, yeah. So I thought I should mention that.
So, the one way, back to this Karam Yoga thing, what we are doing, one way to think about it is that we have, like, what is it that we are trying to do with our mind, right? Um, we've got our intellect, which tells us this is what I know, that nothing will happen to me. I am Atma. I am fine. I'm complete in myself. This you now know based on Vedanta and thinking about it. But your thoughts, the thoughts which actually happen on a day-to-day basis, don't always follow your intellect. In other words, जैसे वो भगवान जी ने वो गीता में उन्होंने बताया था ना, अभी never actually went through that one, but he talked about the example of a chariot. You may have heard about it, where he said the mind, the intellect is the driver, and the reins are the mind, and the horses are our senses. So what he was saying was that the right way, the right order should be that your intellect should be driving your thoughts, your mind, and that should be controlling, through that should be controlling your sense organs. So there's discipline. So if I have a new knowledge, say I have the knowledge of Vedant, then I should be based on my intellect. My knowledge is in the intellect. So based on this buddhi, I should be able to control my thoughts so that they are in accordance with my knowledge. But what actually happens when you don't have, when before you do Karam Yoga and things like that, is that your mind has its own thoughts and your intellect is unable to influence the thoughts of your mind. So the thought patterns which are there, habitual thought patterns in the mind, they don't change. Although your intellect changes, your knowledge changes, but still the same thought patterns emerge. So that is what all of you are talking about, right? Which is that sitting here, that this is how things are, that, I am complete. I'm not this body, whatever. But when you are actually working on acting in life, then the old thought patterns, they still emerge. So your mind, your intellect is, or our intellect is unable to direct our thoughts. So that fixing that is what is the intent of Karam Yoga. Karam Yoga, meditation, all that. And I was talking to my son, who's a therapist, the other day, and we were discussing, we were just talking about this stuff only. And he was saying it from his perspective as a therapist. And he was saying, I was telling him that desires, basically Vedanta defines desires, a desire as an uncontrolled thought flow focused on a particular subject or a particular object. Like when you have desire, deep desire, then even if you know better, you can't help but thinking about the object of desire. You get up in the morning and you'll be thinking about the object of desire. You get up at night, you sleep at night, before you go to bed, you'll be thinking about it. Every moment you get, your mind will be directed towards the object of desire. So that is why they say desire is a impurity, because once you have a desire, a strong desire, your buddhi has no control over your mind anymore. You may know a lot of things in your buddhi, but your mind will do what the desire dictates. But what Vidur was also saying was, it's the same with anxiety too, right? Or with any mental health issue. It's the same thing. Basically, you have a pattern of thoughts which you know are incorrect, which you know really don't make sense. The intellect knows that, but you can't help it. The same patterns of thought are repeated. Every time there's a trigger, the same pattern of thought is repeated. So what Vedanta is trying to do is also exactly the same. It's trying to say, by all these disciplines, by meditation, by leading a life of Karam Yoga, changing your attitude, we are trying to get to a situation where the thoughts in our mind are directed by our intellect, by the knowledge. So the knowledge or the intellect has a upper hand in terms of where I want my mind to go. So that is what discipline is. So all these properties of the mind, Shama, Dama, ये जो होता है ना, Shat Sampatti, वो पता ना, the four qualities, and one of them is Shat Sampatti. So the Shat Sampatti are the six disciplines of the mind. So Shama is control of senses, control of sense organs. Dhamma is control of the mind. Then Titiksha is being able to tolerate, that kind of thing. Shraddha is being able to look at something and try to understand things like that. So all of these are basically saying the same thing. They're saying that if you can have your control over your thoughts, that's what Antakarna Shuddhi is. Meaning control over your thoughts, meaning not have compulsive, obsessive thoughts in your mind, which are driven either through desires or other related. So anxiety is also the inverse of desire, right? Anxiety is I have something that I desire and I will not meet it, so yeah, or I'm going to lose it, so that becomes anxiety. So they're all related around desire. So Gita calls desire as the essential sort of the evil of the mind. So if maybe this will help you think about what is it exactly that we are trying to do by Karam Yoga. So, like at the end of the day, you look back at your day and say, yeah, I should have done things differently. You knew it all along, but you couldn't help it. Your mind went away along with its own old patterns. So, but yeah, just knowledge and just doing what Sanjay is saying every day, day after day. That's the only thing I can think of. There's no sort of magic bullet to this.
Yeah, these, I think there's Swami Tadatananda has a very nice lecture on this stuff about how deep our grooves are, and I think it's not only this lifetime. I think it's many lifetimes. You've accumulated those grooves, and they become deeper and deeper because unconsciously you keep on operating in that framework, and that's why changing yourself is not easy.
Right.
Even though you may have the desire to change, I think you need to do a lot of antakarna shuddhi to kind of get to a better place.
But can I just say, Nito, when you've been saying control your thoughts, just to parse that a little bit, is it we can't really control our thoughts, right? We can work on our intellect, but we can't control the thoughts are going to come, whatever thoughts are going to come, right? It's not because you kept saying control our thoughts. I just want to parse that a little bit.
No, if you change, it's not like that. The thoughts are coming because of that's what therapy is all about. It's about control of thoughts.
No. Is that true? Not control of thoughts, control.
But control, I don't mean like repress them, but change your thoughts. There's a pattern of thoughts. There's a certain there'll be a trigger. Actually, Vidur is a better person to ask this, but what he explained to me was that there'll be a trigger point. And the trigger will unleash an avalanche of thoughts. And we can understand this process and then stop that avalanche of thoughts from happening in such an intense way.
By understanding the trigger, by understanding
we have, which is actually nothing but control of thoughts, which is over time, you remove those thoughts. So the thoughts are not, there's a pattern which our mind is for. Why do the thoughts come? Because our mind is in a rut. Every time we see something, this thought will come. It's like a habitual thing. So we can change those patterns.
Yeah.
If you can't change those patterns
of why the thoughts are coming, but you can't directly control the thoughts. That's all I'm saying. You can't directly control what the next thought that's going to pop in your head is.
No, but you can change the pattern of thoughts.
Yes.
That is what
actually going behind it and understanding.
Well, there may be many different ways of doing it, whether you can go behind it and understand it or whether through other means. right? Vedanta is
Isn't
not
that
saying you
what
go behind
we
it and
do?
understand it. Vedanta is talking about a different means,
Yes.
right? Vedanta is saying use Ishwar as the medium. So whatever means you do it, but you can control the your thought patterns. And if you think about it, that's all we are doing. That's at the end of the day, if we couldn't affect our thought patterns, there
No,
would be no
affecting it,
learning.
affecting it is different, right? Affecting our, of course, we are trying to affect our thought patterns, but I was, maybe it's not consequential. I was just talking about, you kept saying control our thoughts. We can't control our thoughts.
We can't, yes, no, maybe the word is incorrect, but I think the 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 pattern of thoughts can be changed
Yes,
using your intellect.
yes, yes, yes.
So you can say through better knowledge, I will change my thoughts. That is possible to do if your mind is disciplined.
Right.
If your mind is not disciplined, then it is very hard to do.
Yes.
And to discipline your mind, the suggestion by Vedantas, Karam Yoga, and all these things.
Right.
But that is all. But like, I mean, I'm trying to emphasize this, which is that the whole purpose of any learning, including Vedanta, is to change our thoughts. Is we were thinking about some things in a particular way, we are now going to think about them in a different way. We are going to approach them in a different way. We never knew that there's something called Atma. So we never had a thought about Atma. Now we have a thought about Atma. When we see something, we see Atma. It's a thought about Atma that we are having. Right? We are not, Atma was always there, but our mind never recognized it. In other words, mind never had a thought about it. Now it does. So, but still, we have, any trigger will, if we have issues in our mind, which all of us have, then any trigger will release a different set of thoughts. So how do we control them? How do we make sure that that doesn't happen? Gita is all
Yeah.
about control of the senses, control of thoughts, control of. So I know, Kiki, the maybe the use of the word is difficult, but this it is, by control is meant
Impact, maybe.
meaning not being led astray. Like
Right.
the simile that Gita gives is like a chariot. So the horses are our sense objects. The horses will always be led astray. If they see something on the road, on the side, they'll start running there. Then they'll start running there.
Yeah.
So the reins are there because you want to control the horses. So you put blinders on the horse, then you have the driver with the reins. The reins control the horse. They make sure that it's not going here or there. And the driver of the horse, which is the intellect, is the one who has the reins. So the driver decides which way I want my horses to go. So if I want the horses to go left, I tell them to go left. So that is the control of the horses, right? So
Yeah.
similarly, a Karam yogi or a yogi or someone who has discipline will be able to say, my intellect says this is the right thing to do. Even if I have all these temptations which tell me to do something different, I'm not going to get affected by them. I will be able to follow my intellect because I know that's the right thing to do, and I will do that. So that is what is meant by control. Now, this you can't do if your reins are not pakka, if they are not like, if your reins are weak, you're trying to control the horses with your reins, the reins are weak, they break. What will you do? You can't control them.
Yeah.
If your mind, reins are the mind. If the mind is weak, if the mind is not listening to the intellect, if it has its own thoughts which keep coming, you can't then control what your senses, what you're going to do with it. So you'll have a situation where you'll have a lot of knowledge in your head, but your horses are all going all over the place. You know, that's what is. So if you really want to have discipline, that's what is meant by control. Just to kind of clarify. That's okay, right?
So Yeah, I just wanted to share with you, just, I have the same issue, right? Is when you get into meditation, you want to think about X, but you continue to get interrupted with Y. So one of the things that I am trying right now is to actually create a pre-recipe on what do I want to meditate on, um, and construct that recipe and stick to it. Okay, and if something comes up that is so, for example, just to give you an example, I start with focus on existence consciousness bliss. Okay, start there, right? And I feel like I have a lot more control if I exactly know what I want to include in my meditation. Otherwise, the thoughts come and go and you get distracted about whatever the problem of the day is. So that's been to me of some help. Is okay, now I have defined the contours of what I want to, what my thoughts or where my thoughts should be focused on, and it's been helpful that way.
So that's a different kind of meditation.
So this is a question I had asked Carol once, like you have said very directly, Nitu, it's all about changing your thoughts. At some point, when we get older, we're going to lose our minds, perhaps, if somebody gets Alzheimer's, whatever. And so at that point, you just, is what Krishna said, applicable, that whatever work you've done in this life is not worthless. Because at some point, then, if you're just bent on changing your mind, that's what Vedanta is about. Maybe we lose our mind when we're 80 or 90 or whatever.
I mean, it's not Vedanta is not about changing our mind only, right? Because the thoughts change because you recognize something called Atma,
Yeah.
right? That's what I'm saying, that if the thoughts don't change, then you wouldn't recognize. How do you recognize something called Atma? Because your pattern of thoughts have changed. You can't see Atma,
Yeah.
right? So there is Atma. If your mind goes, you will suffer. Just like if your leg goes, you will suffer.
Yeah.
There's no getting away from suffering.
Yeah.
But maybe you'll suffer a little less. Whenever you have some clarity of mind, even in between those patches, you wouldn't be so scared. Because somebody else might be very scared. But that's okay. But that's not that. See, those are all, to me, those are side benefits or not. Anyway, nothing we can do about all that.
Rajiv, going back to your point, which you said was very core, that Nitu explained, about not experiencing Atma consciousness. It is true, Nitu, and that's you've been very helpful in clarifying that. But even though I can't, I am it. I am it. So it's never away. I don't have to look to experience it, but it's me. Right? I don't experience it as a thought or emotion. But
well, I think the point you're making, and I think I was trying to make, is because our minds are so trained to observe duality, and that's how we learn, right? I think that's really where the distance is, right, between consciousness and everything else. Is consciousness can be experienced, whereas we are human beings are very used to any experience outside of that has duality in it, right? And so it's very, very hard for the mind to grasp consciousness unless you start to think about what what happens after death, or you really do investigations around.
I mean, the way to think about it, Rajiv, is that whatever you're experiencing,
Yes,
you're experiencing consciousness.
consciousness. Yeah,
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Without consciousness, there is no experience.
yeah.
So if I'm experiencing you or anything else, there's nothing but consciousness.
Yeah.
It's like if I'm seeing a cup in front of me, I'm seeing light. It's the light
Yeah.
which is coming out of it, which is making it seen, right? So I think I'm seeing a cup, but actually I'm seeing the light.
I actually have created a universal equation out of this, and I was just parsing through that. I think I mentioned that to Sanjay, right? Is objects plus duality, right? I mean, duality of objects, right? Plus consciousness equals experience, right?
I think that, yeah, Swami Sarpriyanand has that equation. Experience equals consciousness plus object.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but
And
that can be very misleading. It can be very misleading if you don't understand it properly.
no, but
It makes you
the
think
point.
as if there's an object which is separate from consciousness.
Everything is in context.
No, object in consciousness, right? So the plus sign is in consciousness. It's not, separate layer of something, right? But I think the other thing that helps me, look at this particular equation is when you take experience away, right? Then what happens? Sorry, when you take the objects duality away, right? Of objects away, right? Then you get consciousness equals experience. So it's you never directly experience consciousness, but that's what you're left with, right? Is sort of the corollary of this.
I think, see, I know what you're saying, because a lot of people say that
Mm.
if you take experience objects away, or if you take vrittis away, Yog Shastra says that, the Yog Shastra, which is a philosophy, it says nivritti, that is the state for nirvana, meaning you remove all thoughts, go into deep meditation, or
Yeah.
say nirvikalpa samadhi. You go into deep meditation and let your thoughts subside, and you'll reach a state where there is no thought. So when there is no thought, all that will remain is consciousness,
Yeah.
and that is the way to know consciousness. But Vedanta doesn't say that. Vedanta says two things. One, it is impossible to get to that state. Maybe you can get to that state for momentarily,
Yeah.
right? And we are also all on that stage. Our thoughts are distinct thoughts. So between one thought and the other thought, there is a little gap. You have one thought, and then there'll be another thought. So that little gap that you have is a state of no thought. So it's not as if, so this is what Vedanta says, is that you cannot, that every thought in itself, the fact that you have a thought, the fact that you see something, that you have an experience, is the proof of consciousness. So to know consciousness, you need to know that. Why do you know you have consciousness? Because you experience. You don't know consciousness because you don't experience. It's not that you remove the objects and then you will know consciousness. It's because objects are there and you're experiencing the conscious objects. That is why you know there is consciousness. If there was no consciousness, you would not be experiencing the objects. So you don't have to remove. This is not something to be experienced by removing all objects. This is something to know. By understanding the process of experience, you know that consciousness is there.
Yeah.
That's the definition of consciousness, right? It's not just Vedanta. That is literally the definition of consciousness.
What? Say that again. I mean, I've missed.
That you know anything. That you know, that you can see.
You can say that, yeah.
You can see something. You can hear something. That's what consciousness is.
Right, but what we do in consciousness is we confuse that consciousness with
the knowing.
Because you say that this person is conscious, and you give him anesthetic, he becomes unconscious. So then that person doesn't have consciousness. We think consciousness is a property of the person.
Yeah.
Right? That a person has consciousness or doesn't have consciousness. Whereas consciousness is there everywhere. It's universal. and its presence is recognized because I can know something, anything. That is why consciousness is there. Without consciousness, I wouldn't know anything. So if you read Kane Upanishad, if we have time, sometime we should do Kane Upanishad. It's a small Upanishad. It's focused completely on this idea that that you can't. Consciousness is something. If you say I don't know it, I know it, then you're wrong because you can't know it. But if you say I don't know it, then also you're wrong because you're experiencing everything. How can you experience without consciousness? So you know that you're conscious. You know there is consciousness because you experience. Now they'll say, okay, what is it exactly? Tell me what. Then you're stuck. You can't pinpoint it and say, oh, there is consciousness. That is what it is, because it's not an object. So then you can't say it's that. So you'll say, oh, I don't know what it is, but I know it is there because I'm experiencing. It's the same thing with me. When I say, who am I? It's very hard to say exactly who I am. Like you can't pinpoint and say, okay, that is me. That thought is me, or that feeling is me, or that thing inside is me. You can't, because you will always be whatever you can point at, you will recognize and say, oh, that's just a feeling, or that's just a thought. So it can't be me. So you'll discard it. Neti neti. So what is remaining? Nothing is remaining. So
Yeah.
then what am I? Then am I there? Yeah, I am there because I know I'm there, because I exist. So that is why you say you can never know what consciousness is, you can never know what you are. But then you also know that it is not that you're not there. That is also known. So this idea has been taken by one Upanishad, Kane Upanishad, and they've written a whole Upanishad around it. Students are asking the teacher. So it's a very, very nice sort of, to me at least, I felt it was very nice to explain it. So this is the explanation for, you don't have to do meditation. You don't have to remove your thoughts. Nothing. But this knowledge by itself is not sufficient, because in your day-to-day life, this knowledge is not going to be useful if it can't influence your behavior. So this understanding has to influence your thought. Now, it will, of course, influence it. Whether you like it or not, it is going to influence. But how to be more efficient in that? That means how to not let your mind run away with its own temptations and its own things, so that it's aligned with your knowledge. For that, to strengthen your mind, that's called strengthening, or called antakarna shuddhi. To do that, you do karam yoga. And karam yoga is not a practice like meditation. You don't kind of do, okay, I'll do karam yoga for 1 hour. In the morning, I'll do karam yoga for 1 hour. Some people say that also, like Janki ji, this thing, she says that. She says, do this project as your karam yoga. That's not the idea of karam yoga. Karam yoga is a lifestyle. Like you have sannyas is a lifestyle. So Bhagavan Krishna said there are 2 lifestyles possible for a seeker. One is a sannyasi. That means you leave all duties. You say, I no longer have any duties as a son, as a father, anything. My duties have been gone. I take a vow of sannyasi, so the duties are gone. When the duties are gone, you can stay at home, you can stay in the Himalayas, wherever you want to go. So you say, my life now is going to be only learning and teaching. That's all. I'm only interested in learning and teaching. I will dedicate my life to learning and teaching. And I do not want to be a father, mother, anything anymore. I just want to focus on that. So if you're not ready for that, or if you don't want to do that, then the other option is Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is your duties are not gone. You still have the duties to be done. You still have to be a father, mother, daughter, son, brother, sister, whatever. You have to be a socially responsible individual. You have a job to do. You're an employee. You still got all those duties. But your attitude towards your duties, towards everything else, the work that you do has changed now. So you change the attitude rather than change your work. Sannyas mein, you change your work only, right? Like you don't do the work. You go and do something else. You just teach. In Karma Yoga, you're not changing the work. The work is still going to continue, but your attitude will change. And that is just as useful as sannyas. So by changing the attitude, you strengthen your mind. You recognize that my attitude is what is causing the weakness in my mind. My attitude is I'm trying to feed my desires. Every time in my life, I'm feeding my desires. But trying to fulfill them, I only feed them. It's like trying to use kerosene to douse a fire, right? You can't douse a fire with kerosene. You're only going to feed it more. So every time you meet your desires blindly, you're just creating bigger desires. So once you recognize that, then you say, okay, I want to change my motivations. Now I want, through knowledge, I want to actually quell my desires. I don't want more and more desires. And that can only happen through knowledge, because knowledge tells you that you don't need to meet your desires to be happy. So through knowledge, you have that. And then you start living your life. You start doing your duties. Every time you do any work without thinking about the result, every time one loop you do that, you get stronger. The next loop becomes easier. So you just build on it like it snowballs. That whole thing is called karma yoga. That's so, not easy to do, but that's karma yoga. But there's no alternative. There's no option. You can't go back now and say, I'm just going to be a samsari. It is not possible. You can't, unlearn what you know. So this is the option. This is what you have to do. Just don't be too impatient, because then you'll be very unhappy. Take it easy. That's all.
But is it okay to say that there is a basic desire we want to constantly feed, which is self-knowledge?
Yeah. That is what it is. It's not a material desire. You're saying now the desire it's not the desire per se that's wrong. It's the expectation that you have from the desire, which is the problem. You can still have desires. You can still want a new car.
Yeah.
But you know what it is that you're going to get out of that car, and what it is that you're not going to get out of
That
that.
it's not in the nature of the car to make you feel full and complete.
Right. Okay. तुम क्या 10:30 हो गए तुम इंडियंस के तो?
I just have one last quick question. Can I ask?
Right.
Yeah, sure.
That's for
If
everybody.
Sanjay, it's up to Sanjay whether you can ask or not. If Sanjay can stay up.
I'm just wondering
I'm up.
how real the feeling of, I think it's automatic for all of us that we think of ourselves as this person. I think of myself as Kiki, as this embodied person. But how real is this knowledge that really I'm not just constricted to this, that myself is not this.
What do you mean?
I mean that, okay, so for you, Nitu, for example, is that you're not this person of, Nitu, who's the brother and husband and father and, all of that. How real is that sense for you?
No, but I am the two with the brother and father.
You are, but that you are something beyond that as well.
I mean, it's not that I am something beyond that. I mean, that's what I'm trying to say. I get a feeling that you're wanting something. You're wanting some feeling of being beyond your body, and you're really trying very hard through meditation or whatever to get that feeling. There is no such feeling. There's nothing. You don't. That is what you need to just do your meditation on, or nididhyasana on. What is this that you're wanting? If you're wanting anything other than Anybody, like this is just a general statement I feel. If any of us are feeling something is missing, right? Whatever that is, it's a good idea to investigate and find out why do we have this feeling that something is missing? Because nothing is missing. That's the point. If you still feel right now that something is missing, there's something we are not getting from our knowledge, something we are not getting from our understanding. You can say, yeah, I don't behave in the way I want to behave. That's missing. Well, you understand that. You understand that I'm not behaving in the way I want to behave and why I want to behave. That is different.
No, that's not what I'm asking. Let me
Yeah,
rephrase my
but
question.
nothing is
I
missing.
see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. That's not what I'm asking.
Okay.
I'm asking that just the basic tenet of Vedanta, that I am not my mind body, how real is that for you? That I am Atma, how real is that?
I'm really trying to understand the question because
Let's leave it for another time. I think
why can it not? What else can it be? I am the mind body also. I am this individual. I am me. That is the Vyavaharika Sat. It is true. And it's also true that there is a there's a like everything around us is not connected. Everything is completely connected. We have one fundamental substance which is which runs across all of us. That is also true. That's all we want to know. That fundamental substrate is also my substrate. That's all we want to know. More than that, there's no need to, there's nothing else which Vedanta is saying. It's not as if there is a me, Dheeraj or Nittu, which is consciousness. And then there's a you, which is
no,
also consciousness.
no. That's not what I'm thinking. That's not what I'm saying or thinking.
I'm trying to reframe your question in your own self.
Yeah. So let me reframe it. I will reframe it.
I think what Kiki is asking is how strong is your shift from the body-mind complex to the Atma level?
So that's what I'm saying. I think you're saying the same thing as Kiki is saying. I'm saying there is no shift.
There is
it's not
that
there is a shift.
The belief system shift means your what your intellect says, what you react on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, let me explain this because I think this is important to sort of understand. So both of you are saying the same thing. What I'm saying is, forget for a minute that I am Atma. Forget the Mahavakya for a minute, right? Because understanding that is very confusing. Meaning that thing is very confusing. Because the moment we say I, we have to think about me. And we can't think of me as separate from, if I say me, that means I'm not you, right? It's not possible for me to think of me without thinking of somebody else. So it's not as if this me who first thought I'm this mind and body, now this me thinks I'm Atma. That is not it.
That's exactly right. I agree with you.
Okay, so that's what I'm trying to. Okay, so now that is not it. So what is it? What it is that we are just saying that that this whole world which we saw as disconnected, we saw, different objects in the world, me there, you there, everybody there. All of this has a common substrate. That common substrate we call Atma or Brahman or whatever. So since everything is a common substrate, I also have the common substrate. The essence of everything is that common substrate. So my essence is also that. I'm not some बिरला जो अलग से बैठा हुआ है. अगर सबका वही कॉमन सबस्ट्रेट है तो मेरा भी तो वही सबस्ट्रेट है ना. That's all there is. मेरा भी substrate is Atma. That's the knowledge. Nothing else. But if you try to think about any other way, then you're going to get into a complicated situation, because then you'll say, oh no, I am not the body mind. I know, Kiki, I know you're not saying that. I'm just saying
Yeah.
you might get into that thing that I am this, I am this, I am this. No, 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 I am Atma. That is not a good way to think about this, because then you will not be, you cannot remove yourself from the feeling that I am Atma, meaning there's a me and there's an Atma and I happen to be the same thing. Then you're saying, okay, I'm Atma, but I'm not the body mind. Then you're creating divisions in your mind without realizing it. The divisions exist. We are just saying that the substratum, the divisions are just forms. All these forms have a common substance. And I'm also, this me that I think about me as this Dheeraj is also a form. And I also have a common substrate. And that substrate is the same as Kiki's and Mukta's and everybody else's.
How strong is that knowledge of you as Nittu having that common substrate, and how strong is that?
What do you mean, how
Has that
strong? I mean,
led
either the
how
knowledge is there or not there. Either you know it or you don't know it. You can't say, I know it weakly, right?
you can say I realize it more sometimes, that it, it's more evident to me sometimes, and because it impacts how you behave, it impacts how you, anyway. Maybe this should have been a beginning of the class question, not the end of the class.
Yeah, like
We
as
can
it is, those
talk
guys are
about it
sleeping.
later. Yeah. I
No,
think it's
but
getting late.
it's just there is no other way. It's not like there is any other way. You think about it. It has to be like that. How can there not be? What do you think? What else could be there? If there's not a common substrate, what is it? There are 5 common substrates, or there are like everybody has their own substrate. Like what option is there? That there is no substrate? If you think about it, there's no like there's, that's the whole idea of what's called Mananam and Nididhyasanam, right? Or Mananam particularly.
I want to add something. I
Yes,
know
yes.
it's going to be very gross, or I mean,
Okay.
something. Uh, we normally don't talk about it like this, but I was talking about death.
Hmm.
So, like, our bodies come, bodies go. People come, people go. Life goes on. Like, the world moves, everything. And people are forgotten. Like, although the near and dear ones remember, but slowly and slowly, yes, you don't exist. Isn't it so?
So say that again.
Mahatma
You don't
Gandhi,
exist. You mean you as an
you
individual?
are dead. You
Yeah.
are dead.
Right.
Okay, so you are gone.
Yes.
Slowly, yeah, like your children will remember you in the beginning, or I mean, the
Yeah.
few
After 2 generations,
days
they will
and
also not remember
months
you.
and years.
Yeah.
Then slowly that memory also fades. Once
Right.
in a
Right.
while, they will remember you.
Yeah.
They look at your memory, pictures, might remember you. And then when that generation is gone, then everybody, do I remember? Do I know my great
Yeah.
grandfathers? Or no, they were bodies.
Yeah.
They're no more, I mean, finished.
Yes, that's true.
So, what is it?
That's true. It is
I
true.
say just thoughts were coming to my mind. I mean, I have just
So
said it.
that is why Vedanta can be useful, because the bodies will go and will come and go. There's no doubt about it. And memories also and thoughts also will come and go, right? But there is something which is there behind all this. There is a common substance. That substance is neither come nor gone, you know, not born, not dead, none of those things. And that is our essence. If you say, what's the meaning of life? That is the meaning. There's nothing else. That is it.
इसका मुक्ता तत्व ये है, you don't matter at all on this
Yeah.
earth.
Yes, I can say it. Actually, मेरे माइंड में यही आता है, और अब
हाँ,
पता नहीं क्यों for past few days या कुछ ऐसे ही thoughts आती रहती हैं off and on.
Yeah, because now we
तो
are,
इतना कुछ
getting old. So all these thoughts will come.
That's
Our
right.
time is, yeah.
इतना कुछ करते हैं, ये भी करना है, वो भी करना है, ऐसे भी करना है, ऐसे ना हो जाए, सब कुछ ठीक से करके जाओ, सब कुछ ऐसे कर दो, like you will not be there, then बच्चे, children, and etc. We keep thinking all those things,
Yeah.
but does it really matter? I don't
no,
think so.
no, no.
Then I think we should go to Vedanta to answer that question.
That's actually the stark reality. It doesn't matter at all.
Yeah, life just goes
The
on.
sooner you realize it, more comfortable you will be.
Right. Very true. Actually, maybe you think about it. Why did you think that it matters? What is the reason that you felt that it matters?
Our thought process.
Yeah. What was it? You wanted
पूरी
to.
जिंदगी तो यही
Right.
सोचते रहे हैं कि all this matters.
Yes.
Yeah, but क्यों सोचते रहे हैं? अभी ये कह रहे हैं ना, क्यों, क्या चीज है जिसकी वजह से ये सोचते हैं? हाँ, बिकॉज हमको
क्योंकि
लगता है कि हम नहीं है, हमारी बॉडी ना सही, हमारी लेगेसी विल बी देयर, राइट? It's all our wish to make ourselves eternal. We want to be eternal.
actually, पहले stop the recording.
Okay, all right. Let me stop the recording. That's probably good because this will become a long recording.